Gene, start us out. You want to start at school or where you want to go?
Well, let me say first, it's a privilege and an honor for me to be asked. Uh, as I mentioned to Deb a minute ago, I don't know why they asked me, but she said because I'm old. So, so I want to tell you, I grew up here in Shelby County. I was called a country boy. I lived 2 miles out on the Arcadia Road. Of course, 2 miles now is nothing to y'all, but there was no school bus routes at all at that time. And I know you're going to say, oh, here we go again. But I did walk from school home many times, but not in the snow. So that goes fine. I was very blessed that I was educated here, grew up, graduated high school here, went on to the University of Texas, and then served in the military. And some of you may say, University of Texas. Well, unfortunately, both my kids and my grandkids graduated A&M. So I received a lot of flack from them, but needless to say, I always reminded them what university sent you to A&M.
Gene, why did you pick University of Texas for your school?
I don't know. I just always thought of the University of Texas as where I wanted to go.
We have a child like that too. And you went with several of your classmates too, didn't you?
Yes, Dr. Steve Oates was a classmate. Chuck Lunsford was a classmate. Joe Davis Foster was a classmate. Noah Gene War, I don't know if any of you read Facebook, where he died recently. He was a member of the Four Mints and gospel music. And Jimmy Sanford was there, and Lenine Pimenter. There were several of them. Douglas Coe was also there.
That is a volume going to the state university from little old Courthouse Center, Texas, with a brick 2-floor school that housed everybody. And I think that's pretty phenomenal.
Well, we enjoyed it. Of course, the university was nothing compared to what it is now. I remember the first time when class turned out and I had to go to the boarding house to eat. The tower, sits in the middle. And I looked and it seemed like the world was there because I was used to center. And then I think there were 15,000 there at that time. So that was quite an experience for me. But I was blessed to be able to graduate there and then went into service. I want to talk to you a few minutes about the square. We have a beautiful square now. It's been but it was not always like this. At the time I was growing up, you could get anything you wanted on the square. You did not have to worry about going a restaurant somewhere else or a feed store or something. There were all businesses located around the square, and it was a thriving business. I remember there were several grocery stores here. And now we do not even have a grocery store on the square. There were service stations. We had 2 theaters, the Rio, where it is now, and the Crystal Theater was located on the east side of the square, where the gymnasium and the dance studio, it was right in that area. And there was a service station where the Champion Light office is. And there were service stations, Johnny Johnson service station, y'all remember that one. And T.E. Moses had a service station on Shelbyville Street, right down where the church parking lot is now on that. And
I don't even think they sell Skelly gas anymore at all, do they?
Not.
It's gone.
It's and then where Buster Brown's office is, there was a service station. And Also, next to that office, there was the building. I think it's Hissy Fit or something there now. That was Tom Baker's Grocery. And that played a very important part in me growing up. And I'll relate that in a few minutes. Why? There was a women's clothing store, and as Buster pointed out, sometimes it was called Women's Ready to Wear. And Buster was laughing about what they made fun of that story, you know. But there were restaurants. Jess and Bob's was located where the American Express office on the north side of the square, and they were known for their chili. And then John C. Rogers, that building has been there. There's 4 buildings that are still here. Pain and Pain, John C. Rogers. I had the bank, and there was another one, the Rio Theater. Those have been here since I can remember. And the square was very lively. As I say, you could get anything you needed. We had 2 soda water plants, the Dr. Pepper plant and the Coke plant. The Coke plant was in East Center. The Dr. Pepper plant was on the corner of the Farmers State Bank drive-in parking lot, across from the telephone company. And Buster and I were talking a few minutes ago about telephones were not very well known. And if you got a telephone in the country, it was an 8-party line. And you could always listen in to what the others were saying.
Did you?
No, I didn't, but my mother-in-law did. And if you needed the phone real bad, you would ask them, could I get the line for a minute? But if you had a teenager on the line, you were in trouble. But, and there was no electricity in the country at that time, hardly. REA came into business, which is known as East Texas Co-op now. But we were blessed when we got electricity out. Radios were battery radios. And you never played the radio except when you had to, because it would run the battery down. So you didn't listen to the radio very much. I was trying to think of some other plants that we had here. We had 3 hotels. The Poly Hotel was located where the Citizens Bank is now. It was the hotel, and they had a restaurant in the bottom floor and a barber shop next to it. And there were 3 barber chairs and a shoe shine boy. And you could get your shoes shined. Of course, now you don't worry about shining shoes, but that was always important to me, and to get a haircut there. I was trying to think if there's any other plant I need to call attention to. We had what was called the Little Rock Inn. I don't know if you've heard of it. I know Buster and David do. It was located, there was a service station across where the building next to the old city jail. And Little Rock Inn was located where the old city jail is located now. It was a Little Rock Inn, and they served hamburgers and drinks and chips and candy. And the school, that's where you went to eat lunch if you didn't have to carry your lunch. And if you carried your lunch, during the winter, we sat in the hallway on the floor and ate our lunch and exchanged lunches with one another. Maybe one had a sandwich you wanted and somebody else. it was a good time. We really enjoyed that. The 3 grades, 1st through 3rd, were located on the lower level. Restrooms were in the basement, and the girls' restroom was on one side and the boys on the other. And as I mentioned to Buster a minute ago, it seemed like the boys' restroom was always flooded, and you never knew for sure it was water or what it was. But we enjoyed that, and we climbed stairs to go to the 1st through 3rd was lower level, 4th through 8th was the upper level, and there was a ledge around the 2nd floor of the school. We had a principal named Orrin Wheeler, and Miss Trudy Nicholson was in charge of the 1st through 3rd grades. Orrin Wheeler was the 4th through 8th. Well, there were no teachers' aides at that time. It was just one teacher taught one class. And sometimes the teacher had to be out of the classroom, and that's when we misbehaved. We had spitball fights and, but Orrin Wheeler, the principal, he could keep in touch with everybody because you could hear the teacher coming down the hall. The floors gave her away. And so we could all get back at our desk and be, just perfect little angels. But Orrin Wheeler knew better. And he would climb out on the ledge and walk down and peek in the rooms. And if we were having a good time, that ended shortly when you saw Orrin Wheeler looking at you through.
That's not an exaggerated story either.
No.
It happened regularly. I remember Mr. Wheeler loved the World Series, and I was in Ms. Henry's room, which was right next to his office, and we would shut down our class the whole time World Series was on, and we'd tune the radio in, and we all got to listen to it. And then he'd go back to his office and we'd pick up school again.
Yeah.
He definitely ran the show.
Yes.
You remember what Miss Trudy was known for, or in my world was known for? She could peel an apple with a switch knife, a pocket knife, and never break the peel at all, peel the whole thing. We thought she was the most talented human being ever made.
Well, she scared me because I hesitate to relate this, but you had to be 6 to start school. My sister turned 6 on September 3rd, but they set her date up where she could start school. Well, my mother decided, mine was in December, and Mother decided mine needed to be set up where I could start school early. So she told Daddy to go change my birthday on the records. Well, he came back and she said, Cap, that was his nickname, what day did you put for Jean's birthday? And he told her. And she said, oh my God, you know what you've done? And he said, no, you just told me to change it. She said, you set it up where there's 8 months difference between them. So I stayed scared they were going to find out. But as I say, Miss Trudy scared me because the first day of school, I remember Mac Neal Moore. I don't know how many of you know Mac. He was an outstanding football player here, played for the Chicago Bears. He and I had a fight the first day of school because who was going to come down the slide first. And when we got to the bottom of the slide, Miss Trudy had each one of us by our hand. We never came down the slide again like that. But growing up there was fun. Education was very important. I said I would mention the Little Rock Inn again. When you reached the 3rd grade, you were allowed to cross the street to the Little Rock Inn. And you may not believe this, but hamburgers were 10 cents. You got a drink for 5 cents. And then she had candy, he did. You could go outside at the tables and eat. And many times when we could afford it, Mother and Daddy would give us money, 15 cents, to eat lunch with. Now, can you believe that in this day and time? But it was a great time. You can't even get a pack of potato chips but it was a great time. And if you'll pardon me just a minute, I'm rambling on, I know.
He loves to drink on the job. It makes it more fun.
I couldn't drink on the job in the courthouse, so. And I want to talk to you a few minutes about the courthouse. It's a beautiful courthouse. It's been restored. It was not always that way. And where Deb's office, the chamber office, was the old city jail. And it had additions built on each side of it, which when they remodeled, they tore them down. The addition on the left side, the district judge's office was upstairs. On the left side was the county agent's office at that time, and then I had an office there. Downstairs was what we called the welfare office, or the old age assistant's office at that time. Buster Brown's mother and sister, Laura Ellen, both worked there. And Buddy Hancock, in case any of you know Buddy, his mother worked there. And the entrance was on the north side, not where the entrance is now. And but the courthouse housed the sheriff's office, the district clerk's office, the treasurer's office, a JP office, and seemed like there was a school office there where Doyle War was located. The restrooms, there was one on the north side and one on the south side. No lavatory, just the commode. And no air conditioning at all. Of course, as you notice, the fireplace is there, but they were not being used, of course. There was gas heaters. And unless the gas was turned on a day or a day and a half early, and during the winter, it would be 35 and 40 degrees in the courtroom. And it was not very conducive. And lighting was very poor. It leaked, and the rain came from the second floor of the courtroom down into the sheriff's office and the district clerk's office. And facilities were not real good. And the voting was, the south box of the voting was out of the district clerk's office. You raised one window on one side and one on the other. You handed them their ballot, and they marked it and handed it back, and you put it in the ballot box. And y'all, one thing that I'm sorry that y'all have really missed, and David, I think you and Buster both remember, at election time, there was a huge billboard with all the candidates' names. And it's set up on the courthouse square. People gathered at night, and they would post the precinct boxes as they came in. And you knew what progress the candidate was making in the election at that time. And it was a great time because we all knew one another. And I remember that vividly. It was a great, great time. The courthouse, as I say, it was rough. And
Got the pigeons.
well, I'm fixing to get to the pigeons. Sparrows and pigeons were always in the courtroom. And you can imagine the problems that would cause. I never will forget, I worked for Judge S.H. Sanders. We called him Spot Sanders at the time. And he loved to hammer his gavel. He would hammer that gavel at the least thing. But I remember we were in trial, and it seemed the sparrows had just invaded the courtroom. And you can imagine the noise they were making. And the lawyers were having trouble hearing the witness. And I remember Judge Spot hammered, "Mr. Sheriff, Mr. Sheriff." And the sheriff came down. He said, "Get rid of these sparrows." Well, what do you do? The sheriff left, and in about 15 minutes, he came back. He had a shotgun. He had crossed over to Fred Hudson's Hardware, bought a shotgun, came back, and he came in the back entrance there and cut down on the sparrows with a shotgun. Needless to say, the gavel fell, and we recessed court while the sheriff cleaned up from shooting the sparrows. And another incident that I think was interesting, the jury box was raised, but there was no railing around it. It was just 12 chairs up on the jury box. Squirrels frequented the courtroom also. And a squirrel came in the courtroom, came down, and jumped up on the jury platform. One of the jurors, a man from Tenny Hall, reached down, grabbed the squirrel. Well, the squirrel bit him. So we had to recess court while he had his hand doctored. And one of the funniest things...
And they didn't worry about rabies, I'm sure.
Oh, no. You didn't know about that.
Coal oil will take care of that.
But one of the funniest things, y'all have all heard of John R. Smith, that was an attorney here. John R., he always dressed great and everything in order. And he was in trial. He was sitting over to my right at the counsel table. And a pigeon flew over and pooped on John R.'s records. Needless to say, John R. raised quite a stink. We had to recess while he had to clean up his, and we got rid of the pigeons again. So many things happened there in the courtroom.
Lucky it was just his papers that it fell off.
Yes. You never knew what
would have had to come off somewhere along the
I didn't go there, David.
That's
But
what I'm for.
it was very, very interesting and a very good career, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Many incidents. They keep telling me I need to write a book. As I said, there were 3 hotels. There was an old hotel located, there was a drugstore on the corner from where the accounting office is now. And then there was an old hotel, and it had run down, and so people who couldn't afford a nice room stayed there. And that is where one of the most horrible murders occurred. That a man killed his father, almost cut his head off with a knife over a horse. And we had a trial, and I never will forget, they showed the pictures, and when they turned the body over, the head stayed in one position. So murder trials, there were a lot of trials. Waterloo Lane.
Before you leave the trials and everything, tell us about the crowd that it always drew.
Oh,
Today, court is dismissed or just those involved show up. It was entertainment.
yeah. Everybody came to watch the trials, what was going on. And in the murder trials, the courtroom was always packed. It was just, you know, they wanted to see what was going on there, and it was interesting, and just
Quite often, the attorneys would come and they'd recess, the judge would recess the court, and they would all wind up over at Farmer's Bank Coffee Shop on the second floor. And the judge would follow them, of course, and hold court there while, not real court, he just presided over.
Oh yeah,
while they took their break. And
that was Judge Wardlow Lane.
But every restaurant was full, every shopping area was entertained while they were on recess. It was.
And right next door, there was a Brian Bailey Cafe, and then Ned Ross had a cafe here. And Ned, one thing I remember, she was noted for her pies and her chili. And she would call out to the kitchen when somebody ordered, Rock Island painted red. Do you have any idea what that was? It was chili with an Irish stew mixed with it. Rock Island painted red. I remember that. And everybody loved Ned's restaurant. And there was a Spit and Whittling Club. Buster, I know you remember that. The older men gathered on the square, on the courthouse. There were benches, and they whittled and chewed tobacco or snuff. It was a Spit and Whittle Club.
Do you remember what was written on the back of those benches?
No, I don't.
Courtesy of Johnny Johnson, County Judge.
That's right. But
no political advertising during the whole thing, but you could put a bench with your name on it on the courthouse property.
And there were always shavings in front of those benches, you know. It was great.
Did they ever make anything with their whittling?
Well, some could make things, but most of them they were just whittling, just you know, killing time. They'd go home at lunch,
Started early and stayed late.
Came early in the morning, stayed, went home for lunch, came back in the afternoon. And they would always come up if there was a trial going on. You could depend on the Spit and Whittling Club to recess and come up and listen to the trial for a while. So times were very, very interesting, entertaining. And David mentioned the district judge. I worked for him. He was Senator Lane at one time. He was a very powerful man in the state. He served as governor one time while Governor Allen Shivers was out of the state. And Senator Lane served as governor for a few days. He was a speed demon in driving. And we had, it was the 123rd District Court, Shelby County and Panola County. So we would go to Carthage to hold court 2 months, center 2 months. As I say, Judge Lane was an extremely fast driver. And he always had a sports car with him. I remember we were in Carthage one day, and he got a call, and he had to be in center quickly. I loaded in with him, and you're not going to believe this, but we came from Carthage to center in 18 minutes. We jumped the railroad track at Tenny-Hall. And needless to say, I needed to go home after that. And he always would laugh about also going to Austin. He drove extremely fast, and highway patrol, he would see them coming, and he would speed up faster and turn off on a dirt road, and they would just keep going. He hid from them many times. And he was quite a character.
I always heard the story that he lived, out where the airport is, in that two-story colonial house out there. I heard that the road, when we were growing up, went straight instead of the back loop on 690.
Yes.
I heard that when he was in the legislature, he had that road redesigned so it went straight to his house when he hit the city limits, so he didn't have to turn, and he could just drop off at the house.
Yeah.
And I tend to believe that to be true, knowing him.
It was, really. And the road now is closed, but the big house he lived in was in the curve there. But he was a powerful man at that time. And was a great district judge. I thoroughly enjoyed working for him, and everything went real good. Y'all, I want to close by, I don't know how many of you are aware, as you go toward Nacogdoches on Highway 7 West, how many of you think you cross from Shelby County into Nacogdoches County? There's a strip, St. Augustine County. How many of you, though, realize how important that strip was at one time?
That's where the Brown house was.
Yeah, the log cabin.
That's right.
But, of course, the county was dry. We had bootleggers, but the county was dry. Nacogdoches County was dry. But St. Augustine County, that strip was where you could go and get liquor. And they had a honky-tonk there. And that's where people went. And that's because Nacogdoches County had no authority. Shelby County had no authority. And St. Augustine, the sheriff's office was too far away. So it was wide open.
The perfect storm.
But
Is it D. Brown's? Is that who it was?
yes, D. Brown. Deborah Worsham, the dentist, it was her great-grandfather that had the place. And
later on, it became a grist mill when we took our corn and had it ground for cornmeal.
really, I was not aware of that, but it was a well-known place at one time, You cross St. Augustine County. That's about all. I hope I haven't bored you too much.
Questions that y'all might have. I've got one more thing that I wanted to talk about before he leaves. We're going to just milk him dry if we can. Y'all have any questions about the stories he's told? If not, June, you were very involved, you and Dolores were very involved in something that had a great impact on a lot of our youth in the county, and that was through the 4-H program, the drill team. Could you tell us a little bit about how that started and your involvement in it and how long it lasted and some of its success, or never had failure, but success?
Well, Marianne Griffin is called the mother of the drill team here. She was very important in the 4-H program. She attended a state 4-H horse show, and they had a drill team, mounted drill teams. And she came back and she said, we need to have a drill team. And so she and I met at the Richard Griffin's place at their arena, and we started a drill team. We didn't know anything about it. But we met down there. We had quite a few accidents, horses running into one another. But Jack Nichols then came as our county agent, and he had worked with the drill team in Marshall. So he started our drill team. And in 1975, we journeyed to Amarillo to the State 4-H Horse Show. And as I say, we were not very familiar with the drill and what all. We went as lumberjacks. We had toboggans, boots, and we didn't realize you're not supposed to ride in boots, But we had lace-up boots, plaid shirts and blue jeans. And we rode the first year at Amarillo. Needless to say, we didn't place very highly. But then we began showing and began working real hard with them, and found out that you needed costumes. And there were 16 riders, and they went various maneuvers, figure eights, circles, and various maneuvers. And the faster you could go, the better people liked it. And we trained the kids. We had, in the summertime, A&M would send 2 people out. And by the way, she told me not to mention her, but my daughter was served one year in teaching from A&M, the horsemanship. And we began riding again. We kept our drill team going. And in 1978, we went to San Antonio, and we won the state championship. And also there was a competition called precision riding, where A&M had drawn up the maneuvers that you had to make. And it was the precision with which you rode those. And the horses on the correct lead at that time. And we won precision that year. We lost in 79 because one of the girls, her daddy had put a new, those of you who ride know, when you put a new girt on a saddle, it stretches. And he put a new girt on right before we rode. And when you get the horse sweaty and all, the girt stretched and the saddle turned and she fell. And so we came in second that year. But then we began winning in 1981. And we won state championship in drill team and precision riding until 1991. And costumes were very elaborate. My wife sewed, Marianne Griffin sewed, Yvonne Permenter, and our county judge's mother, Letha Boren, designed the costumes. And we rode as Southern gentlemen and Southern belles, cowboy and saloon girls. We rode, that was before Arabs were considered enemy, and we rode as Arabs one day. And we won the competition that many years. And we were very, very blessed with that. And I was very blessed to be able to be the drill master from 81 till I resigned in 90. And we raised money by running the concession stand at the rodeos each year. And then we would have barbecues and sell barbecue. And plus the merchants around the square contributed. And so we would raise our money. The parents were not out any expense. We paid for the hotel rooms and everything. But they had to furnish the horses. And one funny story about that, Tarrant County dominated the drill team competition, and they won every year. And we knocked them off their little perch, and so we started winning. Then the rumor got started that Shelby County, they cheat because they have gathered certain horses, and the horses have to match. And so we own the horses, and the kids rode them. That was furthest thing from the truth. You have never seen some of the horses that these kids rode. but we worked at it, and they worked at grooming them, and they took great pride, and the fellowship was tremendous. We wound up with 2 drill teams of 16 men, boys and girls in the drill team. And we rode exhibition. We rode exhibition 2 years at the Texas Courthouse Association in Dallas. We rode in San Antonio. We rode in, I shouldn't mention this one. We rode at Crockett in exhibition 1 year. We had an accident. One of the horses went to bucking during the drill. She fell off. Her father was a horseman. I'm not going to call any names because you might know who I'm talking about. She fell off. Of course, the drill stopped. My son was leading the drill at that time. And her father came into the arena and began to chastise the horse in the arena with the crowd watching. Well, we got through with him whipping the horse. She got back on the horse, and my son was leading. Jack Nichols and Wayne Mason. Wayne was running the music. We rode to music. Wayne was running the music. He had got upset when it happened and pulled the old tape out of the record player, the tape player. And we were in disarray totally. And my son called up to Jack Nichols, who was running the drill, said, "Where do I start?" And Jack forgot where he was, and he said, "Start any damn place you want to." We were not asked back to Crockett for quite a while. But
y'all were also retired from competition with the Abilene group, weren't you?
Yes.
After you won so many times, they not drill for competition.
We
just let them exhibit.
We rode exhibition, and it was a wonderful time, and a lot of young people, I came in contact with, and I was truly, truly blessed. And I want to close by telling you, you're all here in Shelby County. It's one of the greatest counties to live in. You're blessed to be here and to live in Center, Timpson, Tenny Hall, Waukee, Shelbyville. And I want you to realize that the fellowship here and the people love one another, and the camaraderie is great. And one of the most blessed things you can do is help one another, fellowship with one another, and love one another. And you will prosper and you will be blessed. And I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I hope I have not bored you too much, but I thank you for the privilege of being able to speak to you.
I think we could call it a day now. That was great, Gene.